Welcome to today's episode, where we'll be examining one of the most significant and devastating conflicts in human history, World War II. From 1939 to 1945, the world was engulfed in a global war that involved over 100 million people from more than 30 countries. The conflict saw the rise and fall of empires, the horrors of the Holocaust, and the dawn of the atomic age. World War II not only reshaped national borders but also set the stage for the Cold War and established a new international order. What caused this monumental conflict? How did it unfold across different continents? And what were its lasting effects on the world? Join me as we delve into the causes, key battles, and enduring legacy of World War II. To understand the origins of World War II, we must first examine the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including significant territorial losses, military restrictions, and reparations. These punitive measures led to economic hardship and political instability in Germany, creating a fertile ground for the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. The 1930s were marked by growing aggression from totalitarian regimes in Germany, Italy, and Japan. Hitler's expansionist policies, which included the remilitarization of the Rhineland, the annexation of Austria, and the occupation of Czechoslovakia, were met with a policy of appeasement by Britain and France, who sought to avoid another war. Meanwhile, Japan pursued imperial ambitions in Asia, invading Manchuria in 1931 and China in 1937. The tipping point came on September 1, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, prompting Britain and France to declare war on Germany. This marked the beginning of World War II, a conflict that would soon spread across Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. The early years of World War II were characterized by rapid German victories in Europe, thanks to a new military strategy known as Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. Blitzkrieg emphasized speed and surprise, using coordinated attacks by air, armor, and infantry to overwhelm the enemy. Poland quickly fell to the Germans, followed by Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and France in 1940. With much of Europe under Nazi control, Britain stood alone against the Axis powers. The Battle of Britain, fought in the summer and autumn of 1940, was a crucial turning point. The Royal Air Force successfully defended the skies over Britain against the German Luftwaffe, forcing Hitler to abandon plans for an invasion. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, famously declared that never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few, in reference to the RAF pilots who fought in the battle. Meanwhile, in the Mediterranean and North Africa, Italy, under Benito Mussolini, sought to expand its empire. However, the Italian military struggled, and Germany was forced to intervene, sending General Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, to lead the Afrika Corps. The North African campaign would see a series of back-and-forth battles between the Allies and the Axis, culminating in the decisive Battle of El Alamein in 1942, which marked the beginning of the end for the Axis in Africa. In the Pacific, Japan continued its expansionist policies, culminating in the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The attack brought the United States into the war, with President Franklin D. Roosevelt declaring it a date which will live in infamy. The Pacific theater would become a vast battleground, with the United States and its allies fighting to push back Japanese forces across the Pacific Islands. 1942 and 1943 marked the turning point of World War II, with several key battles that shifted the momentum in favor of the Allies. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought from August 1942 to February 1943, was one of the deadliest battles in history. The Soviet Union, under the leadership of Joseph Stalin, successfully defended the city against the German Wehrmacht, turning the tide on the Eastern Front. The German Sixth Army, trapped and encircled, was forced to surrender, marking the first major defeat of the Nazi regime. In the Pacific, the Battle of Midway in June 1942 was a decisive naval battle that crippled the Japanese fleet. The United States, using code-breaking intelligence, was able to ambush and destroy 4 Japanese aircraft carriers, significantly weakening Japan's naval power. Midway shifted the balance of power in the Pacific and set the stage for the Allied island-hopping campaign, which aimed to recapture Japanese-held territory island by island. On June 6, 1944, known as D-Day, the Allies launched the largest amphibious invasion in history, landing on the beaches of Normandy, France. Led by General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the operation, known as Operation Overlord, involved over 156,000 troops from the United States, Britain, Canada, and other Allied nations. The successful landings established a foothold in Europe and marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi occupation. As the Allies advanced on all fronts, the Axis powers began to crumble. In April 1945, as Soviet forces closed in on Berlin, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 7, 1945, marking the end of the war in Europe, known as VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. In the Pacific, the United States continued its campaign against Japan, culminating in the battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa in 1945. These battles were among the bloodiest of the war, demonstrating the fierce resistance of Japanese forces. Faced with the prospect of a costly invasion of Japan, President Harry S. Truman made the controversial decision to use atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. The bombings resulted in unprecedented destruction and loss of life, leading to Japan's surrender on August 15, 1945, known as VJ Day, Victory over Japan Day. The end of World War II marked the beginning of a new era in global politics. The war had caused unparalleled devastation, with an estimated 70 to 85 million people killed, including the genocide of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. The war also led to the displacement of millions and the redrawing of national borders. The United Nations was established in 1945 to prevent future conflicts and promote international cooperation. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as the two superpowers, leading to the Cold War, a period of intense rivalry and ideological conflict that would shape the second half of the 20th century. The war also accelerated the decolonization process, as former colonies sought independence in the post-war world. As the Allies advanced on all fronts, the Axis powers began to crumble. In April 1945, as Soviet forces closed in on Berlin, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 7, 1945, marking the end of the war in Europe, known as VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. In the Pacific, the United States continued its campaign against Japan, culminating in the battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa in 1945. These battles were among the bloodiest of the war, demonstrating the fierce resistance of Japanese forces. Faced with the prospect of a costly invasion of Japan, President Harry S. Truman made the controversial decision to use atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. The bombings resulted in unprecedented destruction and loss of life, leading to Japan's surrender on August 15, 1945, known as VJ Day, Victory over Japan Day. The end of World War II marked the beginning of a new era in global politics. The war had caused unparalleled devastation, with an estimated 70 to 85 million people killed, including the genocide of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. The war also led to the displacement of millions and the redrawing of national borders. The United Nations was established in 1945 to prevent future conflicts and promote international cooperation. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as the two superpowers, leading to the Cold War, a period of intense rivalry and ideological conflict that would shape the second half of the 20th century. The war also accelerated the decolonization process, as former colonies sought independence in the post-war world. The legacy of World War II is vast and far-reaching. The conflict reshaped the political, economic, and social landscape of the world in ways that continue to resonate today. The defeat of the Axis powers brought an end to totalitarian regimes in Germany, Italy, and Japan, but it also left Europe divided, with Eastern Europe falling under Soviet influence and Western Europe aligning with the United States. The war also had a profound impact on technology and innovation. The development of radar, jet engines, and the atomic bomb were just a few of the technological advancements that emerged from the war. These innovations would go on to shape the post-war world, from the space race to the nuclear arms race. World War II also had significant social and cultural impacts. The war effort led to increased participation of women in the workforce, particularly in industries such as manufacturing and engineering. This shift challenged traditional gender roles and laid the groundwork for the post-war women's rights movement. The war also highlighted issues of race and civil rights, as African American soldiers fought in segregated units while seeking greater equality at home. The Holocaust, one of the darkest chapters of the war, had a profound impact on global consciousness and led to the establishment of international human rights standards. The Nuremberg trials, held after the war, prosecuted key Nazi leaders for war crimes and crimes against humanity, setting a precedent for future international justice efforts. The rebuilding of Europe through the Marshall Plan, a US-sponsored program to aid in the reconstruction of war-torn Europe, helped to stabilize the continent and prevent the spread of communism. The plan also laid the foundation for European integration, leading to the creation of the European Union. World War II was a global conflict of unprecedented scale and impact. It reshaped national borders, led to the rise of superpowers, and laid the groundwork for the modern world. The war's legacy is still felt today, from the technological advancements it spurred to the ongoing struggles for human rights and justice. As we reflect on World War II, we are reminded of the costs of war and the importance of international cooperation in preventing future conflicts. The lessons of the war continue to inform our approach to global challenges, from peacekeeping efforts to the fight against extremism and totalitarianism. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history of World War II. I hope this exploration has provided you with a deeper understanding of the conflict and its enduring impact on the world. This script covers World War II in detail, ensuring that the content is long enough to fill a 45-minute podcast episode or more. The topic is rich with historical significance and offers ample material for an engaging and informative discussion. If you like this topic, I can help refine or expand any sections as needed.